President Trump is making some renewed claims about flaws compromising the nation's voting system. He delivered a primetime address last night from the White House. The president says that China tried to acquire election data during the 2020 elections, claiming American voting machines aren't secure, and also says approximately 278,000 non-citizens are registered to vote. The president also used his speech to call for the passing of the Save America Act. President Trump has a history of making unproven and debunked claims, especially about his loss to former President Joe Biden in that 2020 election.
Joining us now for our final topic, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. Khalif, when you look at this last night, I mean, a number of things that we just heard Annie mention, a list from accusing China to hacking the U.S. voting machines. What kind of stands out? Because a lot of this has been shown over the last few years that it wasn't necessarily true.
Yeah, I think I'd echo what Andy said and what you just said, that a lot of this was more of a push to get the SAVE Act passed. I mean, making statements to support why this should occur. When I listened to the statement, the biggest thing I wanted to say was, okay, show me now the documents. Show me the things that you can support your argument. Specifically, if there was election interference, because that was the original argument. Mm-hmm. If there is election interference, show me data that supports election interference. If there is compromising of election data, show me that there's compromising election data. Most of what the White House released, because I looked at the documents, there were heavily redacted documents, but they didn't show any type of election interference. It really just showed your personal information, that there was an attempt to get that. Specifically where it says 200 million voter records compromised, repeated references to personal identifying information. Not that those 200 million voters records were now changed or amended or adjusted. That's what I would be looking for if I was saying that there was some lack of integrity or some lack of trust with the election process. So attempting to make that jump that because our systems are not secured, now your votes may be inaccurate, I think that's where the misstep is. Are there technical data connections that should be put in place to ensure that our personal information is not compromised? Yes, but making a leap to pass the SAVE Act as a reason and using this data to support it, I think there's a disconnect between those two.
We mentioned that a big part of this was to push the Save America Act. Senators have said that the votes just aren't there to make it happen. But if this were to pass, is there enough time to get this in place in terms of the midterms? And could there be challenges to that?
Absolutely, to both of those questions, okay. 100%. Say if somehow the votes magically appeared tonight and they passed this. The states would be prepared to move forward with making the modifications and changes to ensure that this election would run fairly and accurately according to what the change in law is. Additionally, would there be challenges? Wholeheartedly. I mean, everything is challenged. I say all the time, we're a litigious society. Something like this being changed in the middle of a couple months away from a midterm, yeah, you'll see someone file a challenge specifically to stay any implemented changes, to challenge the legality of it, to challenge the constitutionality of it. Those challenges, I think, would be extremely limited. Again, if Congress passed it, the court would say Congress passed it. Mm-hmm. We're not going to shut that down. It would be easier to stop something like this on a state-by-state basis. But if you're talking about Congress passing something like this, it would be extremely limited. But litigation would come. I just think it would be extremely unsuccessful.
We all want there to be trust and transparency when it comes to elections, from the city, county level up to the federal level. I mean, we're not too far away from midterm elections. I mean, what do you say to people that go, I don't know that I trust even my vote, whether you're having a mail-in ballot or you're doing it there in person?
I for sure, and I think that's why I said it. I always try to look at the data. If you make the statements, which is that was the press release that he did, but then they released documents supporting what was said in the press release. My thing is go through and see exactly what's in there, in making sure that you're understanding what they're saying. President Trump said that there were tens of millions of voter data in 18 states that had been bought, stolen, or hacked, right? And that the intelligence community deliberately kept that information from him while he was president. That is the information that he was showing, but it doesn't talk about your vote being altered or changed. This is, I say it a lot, that data is the new gold. This is folks trying to get information to your data so they may have an opportunity to affect your opinion, your thoughts going forward, but not change your vote. So making sure that when you're listening to these things or reading these things, you're understanding what it's actually saying. Your vote wasn't compromised, your data was compromised. Okay. Two different things.
All right, Khalif, thanks for weighing in on that for us.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.